The Tell, Take Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. 3. Nervous. Very, very dreadful. Nervous. I have been and am. But you said that I am mad. The disease had sharpened my sense, not destroyed, not dull them. Above all was the sense of healing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the heart. I heard many things is hell. Who then am I mad? Hearken and observe who held thee, who called me. I can tell whole story. It is impossible to say who first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived it haunted my dead at night. Object there was none, possession there was none. I loved the old man. He had never ground me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was yes. It was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye, with a field over it. Wherever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so be the grace. Very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen cannot nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen who wisely I proceeded with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man that during the whole week before I think him, and every night about midnight I turned the latch of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I bound in the dark ladder all closed that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. Oh, you world, have loved to see how cleanly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. I took man o'er the palace, my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Will a madman have been so wise as this? And then when my head was well in the room, I undid the ladder cautiously. Who so cautiously. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye, and this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found they I always closed it, and so it was impossible to the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring who he was passed the night. See, he would have been a very profound old man. In need to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. At watches minted hand movies more quickly than did me. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feeling of triumph. To think that there is was opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed steadily, as if startled. Now you may think that I drank back, but no. His room was as black as pitch, which the thick darkness, and so I can know that the cold net see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipping upon the thin fastening, and the whole man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing for a whole hour. I did not move a muscle, and the maiden, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the dead watches in the well. Presently I heard a sling groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I know the song will many a night, just a midnight when all the world sleep. It has well up from my own bosom the painting, with its dreadful echo. The terrors that distracted me, I say I know it will. I know that I cannot what the whole man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled I heard. I know that he had been lying the week ever since the first sleeping noise, when he had turned in the bed. His first and had been ever since growing upon him. He had been training to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor, or or it is merely a cricket which has made a single creep." Yes, he had been trained to comfort himself with this supposition, but he had found all in vain. All in vain because death, in approaching, he had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim, and it was the Montfort influence of the impressive shadow that caused him to fail. Allowed he neither saw nor heard to feel the presence of my head within the room.